So I recently dropped a video the other day where I talked about the difference between reselling as a side hustle and corporate reselling, or reselling at the level of maybe a Phoenix resell or a, chase after the right price or retro Rick. And underneath that video, I got a comment from both Double Mint Games. Shout out to Double Mint Games because I did mention them in that video. And I basically used them as an example of a couple of guys who went from reselling as a side hustle and are now in the process of transitioning to that, Chase and Phoenix level of reselling. And, they pretty much, gave me an open invitation to talk. And I told them that I would love to talk about the economics of reselling whenever they have a chance, because I just didn't understand it. But underneath that video, I also got a comment from Pick and Preacher, or I guess Keith. He changed his name, but he commented underneath that as well and pretty much said that, I'd be surprised as to how successful Double Mint Games actually is. And he might be right. He might be right. And I know that Keith works a lot with Double Mint. He does a lot of selling to them. And I think they're kind of the lifeblood of what he does. But we all have different measurements of success, right? Like what success means to one person is going to mean something different to another person. Now, in the midst of all of this, right, Heckin' Steve dropped a nuclear bomb of a video. He dropped a nuclear bomb of a video talking about resellers. He's back on the reseller wave, and he brought up Pick and Preacher. Now, I'm not going to get into everything that he said in that video. I will say that he had me crying. I was cracking up watching that video. But if you want to know what he had to say, you go watch the video. But there was one thing that I pulled out of that video that I thought was worth exploring. And it kind of goes back to what I said to both Keith and Double Mint, which is the economics behind reselling in 2025. And I just don't understand it. Now, I can see how someone at the Chase, Retro Rick, or Phoenix level is making substantial money. I could even somewhat fathom how a Double Mint Games might be getting to the level where they're making money. And just for the sake of argument, I could even understand how someone like an Easy Gamers, for those of you who don't know Easy Gamers, he's a YouTuber. He's kind of like a one-man army. He does like his own solo missions, but he has a very good knack for finding very valuable items at extremely cheap prices. He's got a strong network, and he just leverages the hell out of his network so that he can get amazing deals. And so I could kind of see how he might be making like a real dent, financially when it comes to his reselling hustle. He's probably making enough to feed his family. But outside of like the big three, Double Mint, and side hustlers like Easy, I can't see the economics behind how reselling might enable someone to live a substantial lifestyle. And by substantial, I mean like paying a mortgage, paying rent, paying a car note, buying food, going on vacation, discretionary spending, like things like that. Like, I just don't see how it would be possible. And, Double Mint, like I said, if they ever want to have a conversation about it, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation about it. I don't need them to break down their numbers to me, but I would like to understand how it goes from being a side hustle to a viable business. At what point? Again, I know that it looks like they've hired on some employees, and it also looks like they have some spokespeople, promoting them on their channels and stuff, which bodes well for Double Mint. But again, I don't see the economics when it comes to just a reseller who just kind of does it at the side hustle level. I don't see or understand how you would actually make that work in a way where you can actually survive and live life. Now, taking it back to the big three, and this is something that I've said many times before, I can understand how the big three are able to make a substantial living from what they do, because their business consists of multiple substantial streams of income. Just look at Chase after the right price for an example. One stream of income is YouTube, which is a substantial stream of income. They also have a Patreon, which is also a substantial stream of income. I believe they started a podcast. I don't know if that's generating any income, but I guess we'll see. They have their reselling business, right? And the reselling side of it has multiple funnels as well. Between Amazon, eBay, and whatnot, they've got 3 ways that they can distribute and resell games. So just looking at it that way, they've got about 5 lanes of revenue, right? And all those lanes are substantial. Not only that, they've built themselves a name so strong that they're able to procure some of the better items. They're able to buy large lots. They're able to, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on acquiring inventory. So for them, I could see how it works. I see how Chase might be able to take his family on vacation. He may not even have to work every day. He may not even have to go into the office because he has a staff. He's got a system. He's got things set in place to where he's actually a business owner. Same thing with Retro Rick and Phoenix Resale. They both now own actual retro gaming stores. Phoenix Resale has an online operation, or the online operation he's always had, and now he has a storefront to go with it. And again, he has YouTube. So if you look at Phoenix Resale, he's got a huge YouTube channel. He's got whatnot. He's got Amazon. He's got eBay. He's got his store. He also has at least 5 lanes of revenue, right? So these are guys that have 5 or more substantial lanes of revenue, right? And I don't think that we can discount how substantial YouTube revenue is, because when you consider sponsorships, ad revenue, all that type of stuff, all that stuff adds up. It adds up to, you've got people out here who are making a living just off of YouTube channels that are the size of a Retro Rick or a Phoenix. So that in and of itself is enough to sustain one person. In the case of Doublemint, where they've struck gold, from what it looks like on the outside, is they've struck gold by securing the Amazon revenue stream. They also have, I'm pretty sure they have the eBay revenue stream, and I'm also sure they have the whatnot revenue stream. So they've got at least 3 streams of revenue right now. I don't think their YouTube is at a level where it gets them anything substantial. I could be wrong, but it just from the outside looking in and being a YouTuber myself, I'm a very small YouTuber. The amount of money I make from YouTube is negligible at best. So it's definitely nothing to run a business on. And so I wouldn't really anticipate their YouTube channel really being anything substantial either. So they've got maybe 3 lanes of revenue going on. Now, when I start to think about everyone underneath that, you've really only got 1 stream of revenue. Now, I know there are resellers out there who have YouTube channels, but unless you're like a Cody with a K who was retired at this point, unless you're like I said, like a Easy Gamers, I'm drawing blanks after that because but unless you're like those guys, you're really operating off of 1 stream of revenue, at best 2. Maybe you've got Amazon, maybe you've got eBay, maybe you're doing your own personal whatnot, but you don't have the distribution systems that these other guys have. They have employees, they've created systems. And so I'm sure even in the case of Doublemint, with their 3 streams of revenue, it still has to be somewhat of a struggle to if someone told me that the 2 founders of Doublemint Games were each making like $50,000 a year, if they were taking home $50,000 a year out of the business, like they were paying themselves that, I'd be really shocked. I'd be like, wow, I'd be really shocked. shoot, if they told me they were paying themselves $35,000 a year, I'd be really shocked, because that's a lot. Because when you're in that type of a business, you have to constantly be taking your profits and reinvesting and buying more product. And, it's a hamster wheel, right? So going back to Keith's comment where he said that I would probably be shocked by how successful they are, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. It all depends on how you define success. To me, when I think about the economics of reselling, success would be you have a business that at the very least allows you to pay your most essential bills and feed yourself, shelter yourself, and provide you with transportation. Like if your business is doing that for you, then A++, you're on the road. Now, if you're someone with a family and children, that hustle needs to be doing a lot more for you. And so the math ain't mathing. It's not mathing for me with certain resellers and certain, YouTubers. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying I don't see how. And it's the economics behind it has never really been broken down. And that's why, to a degree, I have to, from a business perspective, I have to give Chase and Phoenix their credit in that they show their homework. They take you inside how they're making their money, where the revenue's coming from, and how they're able to run their business. You know what I mean? And I've said it in the past, when Phoenix makes a video talking about how he runs his business, that's not a video that's going to get hundreds of thousands of views because most people don't care about that. But if he puts up like a Pokemon game, then yeah, that's going to get hundreds of thousands of views. But I watch his business videos, right, to see what he's doing. And, he's hustling, he's doing his thing. So I'll just say this. I'll close with this. I went to a local store today to see if I could trade some games. And the store owner basically told me that they were not interested in any trades at the moment. They need to sell, because they are seeing a sharp decline in sales in their store. They have expressed that they're seeing a sharp decline in collectibles, video games, comic books, toys. It's just not there. And they also have friends and family members who were at one point power sellers on eBay, who they're putting things on eBay, and they have items on eBay that are just sitting. And you want to know what? I believe him, because on Facebook Marketplace, I'm seeing extremely rare Super Nintendo games, PlayStation 2 games, NES games. I'm seeing really rare games sit on Facebook. And these are games that are underpriced by $200-$300, and they're still sitting. And so he just said that the market is not there, and resellers are trying to create this illusion that reselling is fun and it's, you can make all this money and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. Reselling is fun. It's fun, or it might be fun. Like if you're into reselling, it might be fun. Maybe you have fun driving around, picking stuff up, flipping games for Heck, and Steve said, flipping games for a $2 profit. I mean, it might be fun, but it's definitely not financially wise, just from what I'm seeing. But again, if someone can break down the economics to me, make it make sense, make the math, I'd really be interested to know. And I'm only saying that because you got a lot of impressionable people here on YouTube who might see these things and say, yeah, I'm going to quit my job and start reselling. And then they realize really quickly it might have been the dumbest decision they've ever made. It's like people who decide to quit their day jobs and become a YouTuber. Very dumb. That's very, very dumb. I've been doing YouTube for 5 years, and that thought has never crossed my mind. Let me go quit my job instead. No, or the van life thing, people who want to go live in a van. There's always some fad. There's always something on YouTube that, it looks shiny and new. And you get a certain segment of people who get swept up in it. I know a lot of people who have been sucked into the illusion of reselling, and they flamed out. miserably. They've just flamed out. I know too many people, both on YouTube and off YouTube, that have tried that and flamed out. So when I see certain things, I do have to ask myself, how is this being done? So let me know what you guys think. Do you think that, and I've asked this question before, but do you think you can live a real like build a viable lifestyle off of reselling, or do you think it's all smoke and mirrors? Let me know down in the comments. I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.